Hello and welcome back to episode 9 of The Human Condition.
Great to be back.
So today we're doing another deep dive. We've got these fascinating excerpts from an essay. It's called Reflections on the Human Condition.
Yeah, and it dives right into the big stuff, doesn't it?
It really does. And the mission here, as I see it, isn't about finding the answer,
Right, more like exploring the questions. The essay itself seems to frame it that way.
Exactly. It talks about the human condition less as a definition and more like a shared predicament.
A shared exposure to uncertainty. I like that phrasing. It immediately sets up these tensions.
Like what? What are the big ones it flags?
Well, right off the bat, things like wanting purpose, but maybe there isn't one built in, or craving permanence, knowing we're mortal.
Uh-huh. And that tension between connection and, well, privacy, being fundamentally alone in our heads.
Yeah, those core contradictions.
Okay, so let's unpack that first big theme the essay raises. It calls it the first and most profound weight. What's that about?
It points straight at consciousness. The sheer fact that we're aware.
Not just doing things, but thinking about doing them.
Exactly. The essay calls it living twice. Once in the action itself, and then again in our reflection on it.
Okay, and is that the burden, the reflection part?
That seems to be the idea, that recursive awareness, knowing that you know, it's like an echo chamber in your mind.
Constantly running.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And it's what allows us to, well, suffer about things that aren't even happening now.
Ah, so like worrying about the future or regretting the past.
Precisely. Brooding, rehearsing grief, feeling anxiety about what might be or regret over what was. It's the suffering from imagination almost.
The essay mentions seeing a sunset, right? You don't just see it.
No, you think about it. How beautiful it is, how it won't last, how it makes you feel, maybe a memory it triggers. That inner voice is always coloring the present.
Always interpreting.
Yeah. And the essay notes these moments when it really hits you, like the child in the car window feeling separate.
Or the teenager walking home realizing nobody knows what's really going on inside their head.
Right. Or feeling alone in a crowd as an adult. These aren't weird glitches. They're part of the fabric of being human, according to this text.
It makes you think about how much we try to fill the silence. Music, podcasts, scrolling.
Is it to avoid that? The essay kind of suggests it might be. Silence gives too much space for that awareness.
And for the weight of freedom, that sounds counterintuitive.
Well, freedom means responsibility, right? If you can choose, you're responsible for the choice.
Ah, I see. And responsibility opens the door to guilt.
Exactly. Realizing you could have done differently or should do differently now. That creates this constant hum of tension, trying to align what you do with what you think you should do.
Comparing your life to others or even to some ideal version of yourself.
Yeah, the essay calls it exhausting, and you can see why.
But it's not all burden, is it? Consciousness.
Oh, definitely not. The essay balances this. That same reflective capacity lets us appreciate art, music, love, beauty. It allows for growth, imagination, change.
So it's the same machinery, just used differently.
Kind of. And those moments of grace, a shared look, holding someone's hand, getting lost in music, they use that inner space too, but create something luminous.
They don't erase the weight, but they transform it for a moment.
Exactly. A flicker of something else before the usual awareness settles back in.
Okay, so consciousness is the internal weight. Then the essay moves to our drive to understand why, the struggle for meaning.
Yeah, this is like the next layer.
Yeah.
We aren't just aware. We seem to need it all to mean something.
And it contrasts how that worked in the past, myths, gods, duties with now.
Right. Post-Enlightenment, with science challenging old narratives, those shared meanings started to fray. Nietzsche warned about this, didn't he?
Yeah, the epidemic of doubt, the essay calls it.
So that need for meaning didn't vanish. It just shifted
Where did it go?
inward or into ideologies, art, personal projects. Meaning became something you had to construct yourself.
All those messages like find your passion, create yourself, be authentic.
Exactly. Which sounds great, very empowering. But the essay points out a downside.
Which is?
If meaning is your job, then failing to find it feels like a personal failure, an internal flaw.
Oof. So instead of divine judgment, we get internal shame.
That's the argument. And seeing everyone else's curated, seemingly meaningful life online just twists the knife, doesn't it?
Makes your own confusion feel like you're uniquely broken.
Yeah. So the essay asks, what if meaning isn't this big destination? What if it's not a trophy?
What then?
Maybe it's found more in the process.
Yeah.
In moments. It talks about a quiet dignity in just continuing the search.
Finding resonance, like the teacher or the nurse example,
Right.
where what you do aligns with who you are, even just for a bit.
Right. That quiet truth, maybe life doesn't need to be permanently meaningful, just
Yeah.
meaningful sometimes, enough to keep you going.
We keep asking the question, even without an answer.
Something inside just refuses to stop asking.
So we've got consciousness, the search for meaning, and then how we relate to others and ourselves. Solitude and connection.
Yeah, the stage where all this internal drama plays out. And it's built on another paradox, isn't it?
How so?
We're utterly alone inside our own minds. Nobody gets full access. Yet we're fundamentally social creatures, built for one another, as the essay puts it.
We want to be known, truly seen.
But we also fear exposure, maybe. We isolate, we reach out, we misunderstand, we get misunderstood. The essay puts it starkly. No one fully gets anyone else. And still, we try.
That moment you realize as a kid that people can't just read your mind, that love doesn't mean perfect understanding.
Yeah, or that people leave. It hits hard.
Hmm.
And we react differently. Some pull back, build walls.
Become masters of solitude.
Others maybe seek connection constantly, almost desperately, or just bounce between the two.
It feels important to separate loneliness from solitude here. The essay does that.
Right. Loneliness is the pain of disconnection. But solitude, true solitude, is described as the presence of self, something you choose, find clarity in.
Hard-earned clarity.
Definitely. But even then, the essay suggests there can still be that quiet ache for someone who sees you.
And seeing isn't just looking, it's recognizing, embracing without judgment.
Yeah, not analyzing or performing for them, just being recognized.
Yeah.
And that leads to this idea of the rarest connection. Two solitudes respecting each other.
Offering presence without demanding access.
Kind of side-by-side solitude. The essay is a bit pessimistic, suggesting few find it, many fake it.
But it does say those moments exist. The friend who just sits in silence with you. The partner who sees your worst and doesn't flinch.
Even a kind stranger. Small moments, but they feel huge. They remind you you're not entirely walled off.
Like little windows opening in that walled city of the self.
That's a great way to put it. They don't demolish the walls, they just let some air in. They don't fix the aloneness, they dignify it.
They sit with you in it.
Exactly. Connection as resonance. Not merging, but humming together.
Yeah.
Saying, I don't get all of it, but I'm here.
So love isn't rescue, it's witnessing.
Seeing the details without trying to edit. Turning that private chaos into shared silence, maybe.
Okay, next up is suffering. The essay is pretty blunt about this one. Calls it foundational.
Yeah, not a bug, but a feature.
Mm.
Inevitable. Loss, illness, betrayal, meaninglessness. It takes so many forms.
In the ways we talk about it, enduring, transcending, growing, the essay questions that a bit.
It suggests those might be comforts we need, because the idea that pain might just be pain without a neat lesson or purpose is maybe too hard to handle.
It says pain is a pressure, not a sculptor. What it makes depends on the material it's pressing on.
Right. No guaranteed outcome, no fixed lessons. And we try so hard to make sense of it anyway. Find reasons, rank suffering.
Decide who deserves compassion.
Which leads to this really interesting concept, the machinery of suffering.
Not the pain itself, but how we handle it as a society.
Exactly. The scaffolding around it. Turning it into currency who's suffered more. Demanding performances of bravery or quick recovery.
Making healing about productivity. Bounce back.
Yeah. And institutions can play into this. Treating symptoms. Maybe punishing outbursts. Demanding composure. Even friends might pull away if it gets too messy.
And this whole machinery alienates people who are really suffering, right? Makes them hide it.
Or invalidate it themselves.
Right.
Oh, others have it worse. It's not that big a deal. They learn to conceal it.
So suffering becomes invisible, not because it's gone, but because it's hidden. In the silences, the clenched jaw.
But like with connection, the essay points to moments of rupture, small things that break through the machinery.
A hand reaching out, a song, a stranger's kindness.
Yeah, interruptions. Reminders that while the pain might be unavoidable, the isolation doesn't have to be.
And the most powerful response is just presence. Witnessing without trying to fix.
That radical human presence saying, essentially, I won't fix you, I can't, but I won't leave you alone in this.
That doesn't take away the pain, but it dignifies it.
That's the argument. Maybe dignity is the last thing suffering can't fully touch.
Wow. Okay, and all of this happens within time, which the essay calls the quiet architect.
Yeah. We measure it clock time, but we feel it so differently, don't we? Grief stretching a minute, nostalgia squashing years. It's rigid and fluid all at once.
And memory lives within that. our attempt to hold on to ourselves.
But it's so imperfect, stitched together, faded, biased by feeling. We forget, we edit,
We rewrite our own stories. Sometimes we have to, for survival.
which means that sense of a stable self is maybe an illusion. The I from 10 years ago is just fragments now. We're always dissolving, vanishing.
That's a slightly terrifying thought.
It is. And thinking we're stable makes us unprepared for change. We beat ourselves up for changing our minds, our passions, our loves.
Treating transformation like we betrayed some past version of
A
ourselves.
version that doesn't even really exist anymore. And time changes how we even see the past. Stories shift. Regrets change shape. Memory's not a library. It's alive. Organic.
And as we get older, that sense of time shifts again, realizing more is behind than ahead.
Becoming an archive. Unfinished things, lost things, versions of ourselves we can't get back to.
There's a real ache in that, isn't there? Knowing things were lost, sometimes without even noticing at the time.
Friendships fading, dreams put on a shelf, ordinary days you didn't see the value in.
But the essay uses this pain as a teacher, too.
Yeah. To remind us that this, now, isn't a rehearsal. It's it. Nothing stays. Memory might fade, but presence. We can choose presence.
Walk with time, not fight it. Honor the now.
Recognize you're becoming someone you'll remember or forget. This moment could be huge for someone else, or the last quiet one for you. We just don't know.
So maybe the goal isn't preserving the self, but touching it honestly while it's here, looking closely at the soft, trembling shape of now.
That seemed to be the feeling, witnessing our own slow disappearance.
Okay, so consciousness, meaning, connection, suffering, time. Faced with all that, what's the response?
The essay lands on hope.
But not a fluffy, optimistic hope. It calls it defiant, even brutal. How so? Brutal hope.
It's not about denying how hard things are. It's deciding to move forward anyway, even when the path is gone.
A rebellion against everything saying it's pointless.
Exactly. Against entropy, despair, a middle finger raised to the void, as the essay physically puts it.
And the examples are everyday acts of defiance, almost. Planting a tree you won't sit under.
Showing up for a friend when you're falling apart yourself. Writing that letter to a future that might not happen.
It acknowledges how much the world chips away at hope. Injustice, climate anxiety, just numbness.
The constant scroll of tragedy.
But then it counters with, and yet.
Yeah. People still fall in love. Strangers help each other. Art gets made in war zones. Jokes get told in hospitals. Kids laugh. These aren't solutions, they're testaments.
Rah.
Evidence of persistence.
Hope isn't certainty, it's acting as if it might matter.
Right. It's a discipline. A posture. Sometimes it's quiet, like just getting through the day, making breakfast. Sometimes it's loud and scary, quitting the job, speaking out.
And crucially, this hope knows how bad things are. It sees the cruelty, knows people get broken trying to fix things.
And chooses to act anyway. That's the courage. That's the resistance.
Then there's that final point.
Yeah.
The opposite of hope isn't despair.
Right. Despair can exist alongside hope. The real opposite is surrender.
Because surrender makes you complicit, part of the machinery.
That's the implication.
Yeah.
So hope's message is really basic. You are not too late. It is not over. There's something still worth building.
Wow. And just trying, even if you fail, leaves a mark. Becomes part of that great unfinished mosaic of being human.
Yeah. The act itself matters.
So we walk through consciousness, meaning, connection, and solitude, suffering, time, and landed on this defiant hope.
It's quite a journey the essay takes you on.
And the core takeaway seems to be, it's not about solving these tensions, is it? It's about living within them.
Accepting them as the fundamental grammar of being alive, as the essay puts it. These aren't abstract ideas. They're the stuff of our actual lives.
Yeah. And the essay ends by pointing out that despite all the breaking, the forgetting, the suffering, we keep reaching out. We keep trying to speak, to witness, to understand.
We continue.
And maybe, just maybe, that, in the deepest sense, may be enough.
That idea of the dignity in just continuing, it really stays with you.
It does. Something to ponder until the next deep dive.
Looking forward to it.